Show, where 6 and 7-figure CEOs build their purpose-driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School Masterclass show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission-driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week same place and time for our upcoming show.
Hello, purpose-driven entrepreneurs. I hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. I'm back with you with another amazing show and a beautiful conversation with JENN Peterson. And we will be speaking everything that has to do with releasing fear to achieve your goals. We're still in the second week of January, so I know this is what's very relevant, and a lot of us entrepreneurs are planning our 2023 goals. So I'm so excited to learn more regarding this topic and what JENN has to share with us. But before we dive into that, JENN, thank you so much for finding time to be on our show, and I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about, I always ask my guests, what are some of the pivotal moments, I guess, in your journey that led you to the work that you're doing now?
So I'm JENN T Peterson, and I am an Equus life and business coach, which means that I do life-changing work for humans in the presence of horses. I'm also a shamanic Reiki master teacher. And so I really understand the energy of things like marketing that maybe your audience would be interested in, because there is something about the words that we put on a page, or when we go live on a video, and how we're feeling in the moment. And if we're trying to feel the fear and do it anyway, that actually can come off, and people can kind of sense that about you. So my work that I do helps people release fear to market and sell their services. So the thing that really, I think, was the most pivotal moment was when I was 8 years old, and I was being chased by my father through my house. And we were not playing a game. He was naked and I was terrified. And I found myself trying to escape. And I went to the roof of my house, like right outside of my window. I crawled out, and my bare toes were clinging to the edge of the roof. And I was contemplating, I thought I could shimmy down the drain pipe to get to safety. I was going to run to my aunt's house. And he caught me, because I froze. My whole body just took over when I was on that edge of the roof. And what was left was a crippling fear of heights from that moment. I used to be a kid who loved roller coasters and all of that. But really, when I tried to feel the fear and do it anyway, it actually made my phobia worse. It just, because I couldn't break it. And I really wanted to got restructured out of my corporate career. I was in marketing for 20 years, and I was an award-winning advertising professional, 3 of the highest awards for effectiveness in advertising, that kind of thing. And it was not something that, when I had my child, that I wanted to be continuing to do, because I felt like I was always at the office in the corporate job. And what I really had this sense was that I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how. And so when I was restructured out, I realized I could be a life coach. I could help people with something. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I just knew I had that in me, that I wanted to do more than just sell candy to little babies and make America fat, which is what I felt like I was doing when I was in my corporate job, and the different kinds of accounts that I would work on. And so what happened was that when it was time for me to, when I started to have that feeling, I found out that there was a client I worked on, IKEA, and we had brought life coaches into IKEA stores as one of our campaigns called the Life Improvement Store. And I remembered a moment when a life coach helped me figure out in like 5 minutes that I wanted to have a baby. And, and I was, my body literally wanted to have a baby. That was it. And I thought, wow, I could actually be a person who could help people with something like that. Like that, maybe she trains life coaches. And within 5 minutes of figuring that out, I got restructured out of my company. So when I was training to become a life coach, I wanted to be a coach who walked her talk. And I realized that if I was going to ask my clients to do the scary work of like achieving their goals, changing their habits, all of those types of things, and I couldn't even get to the 12th floor of a building without having a panic attack in an elevator, it just didn't feel very congruent or didn't have a lot of integrity, I felt. So I was reading my mentor's book, Dr. Martha Beck, and she said, the only way to a place beyond fear is to do the thing you fear the most. And I was like, oh, I shut the book. I knew what I had to do. I had to go break my fear of heights. And I had been a few months earlier, I had been invited to a lunch with my girlfriend, and she told me to meet her at a restaurant called 42. And I was like, okay, I thought it was like 42 Main Street, but it was actually on the 42nd floor. So I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell her I couldn't meet her. So I tried to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I got on the elevator and I stepped off the 42nd floor of the building, and it was ceiling to floor windows, and everywhere was windows. And I started to like get vertigo, and it was very uncomfortable, but I thought maybe I could do it. I could just keep pushing myself. And I asked for a table in the center of the restaurant thinking I could like get through it. And I just rushed through the lunch. I felt horrible. And I jumped into the elevator after saying like a quick goodbye to my friend. And I found myself as the doors closed behind me that I was in a glass elevator. And there was a little boy and his mom inside the elevator. And I was the one screaming like a baby because I couldn't get out of the elevator. It was express. And as it like went down, I was terrified. So I knew that I had to go back to that elevator and I needed to break my fear. So it took me about 3 attempts on 3 different days to get myself to the elevator. And once I got there, I was standing in front of the elevator trying to convince myself to push the button, get on the elevator, and I couldn't do it. And I started to pray to my mom. And my mom had passed away about a year before. And I was like, Mom, can you just help me? Thinking, maybe she's out there and she can just do something to like maybe give me a little nudge to get me on the elevator. And a few minutes later, I felt a tap on my shoulder. And there was a man behind me. And he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm not okay." And he said, "Well, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to break my fear. I want to break the fear of heights, but I can't get myself on the elevator." And he said, "Well, do you want me to go with you?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And he pushed the elevator button. I stepped on with him and we soared up to 42 flights. And it felt more like that experience Willy Wonka had in that movie, The Chocolate Factory, when he's in the glass elevator. That's what the experience felt like, more than the Tower of Terror that it felt like my prior experience a few months before. And so I was just smiling. We snapped a selfie. We introduced ourselves. And when we got to the bottom, I asked him, I was like, "Well, what made you offer to help me?" And he said, "I don't know." He's like, "I came out of the bathroom and something just told me you needed my help. I can't really explain it." And after that experience, I got to life coach training and I started to really understand and go to work to figure out how was I able to release fear in that moment when I couldn't do it the 3 days before or all the other times in my life. I was 44 when this happened. Like, how could I have done it in this moment and not all the other moments? And so I really studied and understood how fear affects us and what happens to the brain. And I was able to sort of decode fear. And then I used that process to break other fears that I needed to, or just fears that I wanted that were getting in the way of me having a nice life. So one of them was my fear of horses. When I was intuitively guided to work doing life coaching with horses, I was terrified of horses. So I used this process that I learned to release fear of horses. So now for the last 7 years, I've been working with horses and helping people, and I don't get afraid that the horse is going to kick me or any of the things that could possibly go on in my brain. And so that's pretty much, I think, the
Yeah.
basis of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, what a story, right? And I always intentionally ask that because it's always those moments in our journey that kind of lead us, kind of carve the path, I guess, for what we do now. And whatever we're doing now is sort of something that's going to manifest down in the future and all of that. So, but yeah, through your process, you've been able to overcome fear of heights and fear of horses. Sounds like so. Now you have a framework that you help your clients. So, what sort of other fears? People come to you with as related, I guess, to let's talk about business, right? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs on the show that watch the show. So when it comes to marketing, I find that's a big pain point for a lot of people, right? So what can you share with us? What are some of the other common fears that you've seen?
So I think the biggest fear, and it's probably the number one fear that people experience, is the fear of public speaking. I have that myself. So what I will say is the bad news is that the fear doesn't actually go away forever. You tend to, once you use the formula, it goes down. So if you're anxious and you run up here, you don't do that anymore. You run low. But fear is part of our human experience. But what tends to happen to people is they get stuck in it and they can't move forward. So sometimes you'll freeze. If you, for example, with public speaking, if you get up in front of a group of people and you haven't gotten your brain into a place where you feel safe to do that, you will end up experiencing the fear. So what I love to do is teach people how to release it before they're going. So especially in marketing, some people have a fear of imposter syndrome. They feel like they don't know enough, or someone else knows something more than they do. They could feel like they're afraid to put themselves out there. I know a lot of people, when they go on social media, they are afraid of what's everybody going to say, and everybody is usually like their aunt and their cousin, and people that are following them on social media, and they're like, how are they going to help like understand what I'm saying?
What are they going to think of me, right? What are they going to think of what I'm doing? And the judgment, fear of judgment.
Is the worst. I think the biggest ones are perfectionism. People want everything to be perfect before they show up. They want to know exactly what they're going to say. They rehearse all of those things. I think the procrastination is also a fear-based behavior that happens when, we want to work on our websites because we're like, oh, we feel like we're doing something in our business, but it's not a revenue generating thing to do to work on your website. Really, what you need to do is put yourself out there and tell people what you're doing in a way that is helpful and in service if you have service-based professionals in your audience. So that procrastination will stop you in your tracks from moving your business forward. And I think the other one is when we want to achieve something so much, we are almost like burning ourselves out because we're pushing. That's also a fear-based behavior because it's the fear of failure. We don't want to fail, so we push. The other one I think that's huge for people is the fear of their own power. That can be the deepest fear that we have because, yes, because
Claim.
if we get too big, or like, what if all of the clients want to come? What will we do? Well, wouldn't that be an amazing problem to have? I'd rather solve that problem than solve the problem of no clients, right? So being afraid of what we're really capable of, it tends to be a very common thing, especially around entrepreneurs. And also people pleasing is a fear-based behavior. We want everyone to like us. We're afraid to offend. We don't want to say the truth that really is the thing that needs to be said because we're afraid of rejection. So there's a lot of sort of subtle fears that maybe run underneath the subconscious. And then there's the big fears that we have, like public speaking. That one is kind of, I think, a really common one. So I think that's.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail in the head with that, with the recap of all the types of fears. I'm glad I asked that because sometimes we just hear about it in different, content, in different perspectives, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, I think recapping it and just kind of like laying it out there and be like, here's the main common fears that we all human, we all experience them, and we all can identify, just like I did with certain ones, right? Depending on where we are in the phase and stage of our journey. There was a time where I feared all the other ones that you mentioned at the beginning, right? But
Yes.
I think that's the part that you mentioned, which is so important. The fear is there to protect us. It has a function, but we don't want to let it keep us stuck from doing the things that we want to do. I think this is where the framework you have developed, the work you do is really, really important. So, what can you share with us, Jen, based on your framework to give people some quick wins,
Yes.
um, right here on the show? I know, obviously, working with you, deeper work on all of that, that's very, very valuable, but just some quick wins that they could apply maybe right away once they identified or resonated with any of those fears that you mentioned, or a couple of them. Sometimes it's like a bundle, it's not just one thing.
Yeah. So my framework involves 4 steps. The first step is mind over matter. And so really understanding what's going on in your thoughts. Now, this is for things that you're anticipating. So I'll just use public speaking as an example. If you are anticipating, I was anticipating coming on this live program, and I did a little research. I realized, oh, we're going to be on video, things like that, which is a little more different than if you're just on a podcast where you're hearing audio. And so I could feel that it was a little bit creeping up. So what do? I watch my thoughts. I think, okay, what I've got a fear of public speaking. What if I say the wrong thing? I have these things going in my head. So I'm going to watch my thoughts and I'm going to witness them with radical compassion. And how you do that is I think about that little 8-year-old girl who was standing on the roof and not knowing what to say, not knowing who to say. And so that's very likely where I will go to witness. The little girl is going to be able to share her story. She's going to be able to use her voice. And she's going to help a lot of people. So I'm witnessing myself with radical compassion for why I might not want to, put myself out there and sit here on the video with you, even though I love doing it, because I love helping people. But the public speaking might be the thing. So I'm going to witness that with radical compassion. And then the second step is really, what is the truth of this moment? What's the truth of the matter? Well, the truth is that I'm completely safe. In this moment, I'm safe. You and I are just having a conversation. Everything is fine. All is well. It doesn't really matter if I help one human. If I just help you, or if someone else is here and I help one human, that is enough. I'm totally safe. Even if someone says something, they disagree with me or whatever, my life is not threatened, even though when we're experiencing fear, it feels that way and we don't always put ourselves out there. So just understanding, is this true fear? Like something is actually dangerous. My life is threatened in this moment, or is this just false fear? And I'm feeling this. What our brain likes to do is it likes to keep us small because it says to us, "Oh, you're going to get kicked out of the tribe." And because our brains haven't evolved since we were cave people, like we still have that kind of brain. And when we were kicked out of the tribe because we were rejected, we said the wrong thing, that meant death. So fear of public speaking, we really do. Our brain really thinks we're going to die, but our higher level thinking, which is the cerebral cortex, can show us that we're safe in this moment. So before when I know I'm going to experience it, I go there and I say, is this true fear or false fear? And so unless there's like literally, I don't know, a snake biting me and it's venomous, I'm in false fear. Because even if I'm predicting the snake is going to bite me, still false fear. That snake hasn't bit me yet. So I'm just giving a real life example that I've experienced myself with snakes. And so, that I feel like is the most important thing, is just like asking that question. And by the way, if you are experiencing true fear, you actually can't even ask yourself that question. Your body is going to take over, which is another step that I teach, is that trusting that your body is going to not lie to you. It's going to tell you the truth. And in the moment that there is a snake, it's either going to fight, flight, or freeze. That's, when the snake is about to strike, that is what will happen. So when we're here in a public speaking situation, that's not happening. I can still ask myself the question because I'm not in true fear. I'm in false fear. So just the fear, just the mere fact that I can ask myself the question means that my prefrontal cortex is still working. Now, the other thing is the motivation. Like, why is it important for me to be public speaking? So as an entrepreneur, why is it important for you to be getting the word out about your products or services? When you understand that at a very deep level, it will motivate you so much that you are compelled to go out and public speak. So for me, it's like, it's so important that people understand how to manage their fear and they stop sitting around and waiting and folding the laundry and doing all the things that they do to procrastinate getting their work out into the world. That's sometimes what happens, especially that a lot of us are working from home. We end up getting, exactly. Hire somebody to do the laundry and go get your work done.
I love that, Jen. I love it. I love the everything you shared, but the thing that I also utilize a lot based on what you said is kind of just like take a moment and be like, what's the worst that can happen? Is this really rational? Like, what's the worst? I'm just like, make it small for yourself. It's not a big deal. Just having a conversation. I do that too. I minimize not of my feelings, but I minimize the fear in many situations where I feel like, oh my gosh, it's like a big deal or something new that I've not done before. Like, what's the worst that can happen? It's another human in front of me. That's all. I can connect. And I think the other beautiful part that you said is tied to your impact. It's like you believe that people have to hear this message. You have knowledge that you need to reach the right people with, that they need to hear so that they can make the it could change their lives. I mean, that's really how impactful everyone's work is in our own authentic different ways, and then with all the perspectives that we bring, with all the different journeys. So I think always thinking about other people kind of removes you from your own insecurities or fears and all of that. Then you just kind of just go with it, and once you do it, you feel good about it because you made an impact and your confidence rises, right? Your confidence is something that happens through action as well. Well, Jen, is your longer name Jennifer?
Yes, my longer name is Jennifer, but because so many Jennifer Petersons, I'm Jenn T Peterson on social media.
Jenn T Peterson. Yeah, we'll definitely get the audience to connect with you after. Thank you again for everything you share. We've reached the end of our interview. Maybe I'll have you back because there's so many things that we can go in deeper and tie into different topics. So I want to thank you for everything you share with us today. And I usually ask my guests at the end, what is one final message from their school of life or what their school of life has taught them? And also, where is it that people can connect with you?
So the one thing I would leave you with from my school of life is that there is a very close relation between your fears and your fascinations. And so when you follow your fascinations and you release your fear about them, that's when all the magic happens.
I love that. Fear and fascination right there. Sometimes we can't even tell the difference. It's crazy.
It's true. I was fascinated with power animals, fascinated with energy, and that's the work that I do. So I can totally see it. So you can find me on Instagram at JENN T Peterson, JENN T, and then PETERSON. And my website is the same, jenntpeterson.com.
All right, beautiful. Jen, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that I got to know a little bit about you as well. And I really hope that a lot of the tips that we shared are going to be very valuable for the people, watching the interview. And yeah, keep shining, keep sharing your message. It's definitely beautiful what you're doing. I wish you much success, and definitely looking forward to staying in touch and supporting one another. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone. I will see you with another interview and another show. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Love to offer you a free high-level strategy call where I would love to hold the space and really connect the dots for you in your life and business alignment, from branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team, and really have you walk away with insight on what you might be missing and what are the gaps you are currently experiencing in your business between where you are and what you're trying to achieve, so that you can get more income and make more impact with the work that you are doing in the world. Let me know if you'd like to connect, and I'll be more than happy to have a call and a beautiful conversation together to see if we can support you further with your goals.